Our first speaker today is Alex Parker, Professor of Physical Activity and Mental Health at Victoria University. Alex leads the Healthy and Inclusive Communities research program within the Institute for Health and Sport at Victoria University. Her research group aims to measure, understand and promote exercise and physical activity to optimize mental well-being and prevent and treat mental illness. Alex has extensive experience in leading clinical trials to promote physical activity in young people with mental health concerns. She's leading the Mental Health Research Consortium at Victoria University, which aims to address the high prevalence of physical and mental health concerns through behaviour and lifestyle interventions, including physical activity, sleep, and nutrition. Alex is also a clinical psychologist with extensive clinical experience in youth mental health services. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you very much, Jay, for that welcome, and for Sarah for the invitation to present today. And I'd also like to say thanks to Francis O'Neill from VU Library, who put me in touch with Sarah around this opportunity. And it's an absolute pleasure to be able to join you today. Now I'm just going to set up sharing my screen, so bear with me for a moment. And hopefully that is all working well. So as Jay mentioned, the majority of my work is looking at how to include physical activity as part of mental health treatment. But today I'm going to really focus on an initiative that we started as a response to COVID-19 restrictions and working remotely from VU in terms of the massive changes that had to take place for our staff and our students. But just before I do start, I thought I would share, I guess, the definition around mental health that does shape a lot of the work that I do. Looking at the World Health Organization definition, is around mental health being a state of well-being in which every individual realises his or her own potential, can cope with normal stresses of life, and we'll underline what that means today in our presentation compared to what's an abnormal stress that we're all experiencing at the moment, and being able to work productively and fruitfully and making a community contribution. So all of these things are the key features of having good mental health. We know during this pandemic that we've actually seen some significant changes and challenges. So our inability to access our workplaces, our educational institutions, or our cultural and sporting events, for example, have made significant changes. And this was a rapid change and a period of uncertainty that we're all facing at the same time. Some of the psychological stresses include concerns about income, jobs insecurity, changes to work practices, so remote working that we've all had, reduced hours or threats of loss of job and job insecurity. It's normal to feel more pressure and to be worried about our health or the health of our loved ones, or to feel overwhelmed with work demands. A lot of us were worried about our children and their education while we were schooling at home. And then now we're also seeing, they're talking about this sort of three waves of that response to the pandemic. The first is the health concerns, the second is financial and economic, and then the third is the mental health concerns. So there's a whole range of things, including impacts on relationships. So I haven't captured everything, and we know that it affects us all in many different ways. But we do know that we, to a lesser or greater extent, we can share that we've been physically, emotionally, economically, socially and psychologically affected by this experience. And I'd just like to also acknowledge that some of us have had personal experiences with mental health problems, either ourselves or our loved ones, that may have been precipitated or exacerbated during this isolation period as well. So what I'm going to focus on is a program that we developed at VU in recognising the need to have a rapid mental wellbeing response for staff and students, and to promote their mental health and wellbeing. So it wasn't designed to be a treatment. And then obviously anyone who has significant concerns, we would support them, and we have been helping them access other more appropriate services. So our program, we labelled the Elevenses program. it was named after Paddington, because he often took his Elevenses, and I know it's a bit of a British idea as well, isn't it? So our program is inspired by recommendations for routine and consistency during a time of crisis, but also by this little bear who loved a cup of cocoa and a sticky bun and a lovely chat with his dear friend, Mr. Gruber, at 11 o'clock each day. So I've since learned that hobbits also love Elevenses, but mainly because they like to eat 7 meals a day. But I'd like to stick with Paddington's view, as it provides this essence of warmth and comfort and connection. So what we have done is offered a daily 10 to 15 minute program on every weekday for our staff and students, plus recordings of these sessions are available on our intranet at VU and our internal social media page. And so we've heard a lot about this being an unprecedented event and the challenges associated with it, but we do know some of the psychological impacts associated with enforced quarantine from past experiences, and these include stress, anxiety and depression symptoms, irritability, insomnia, fatigue, boredom, and then also contagion fears and avoidance behaviours that might emerge once we've sort of come out of the crisis. So we wanted to make sure we had content in our program that can address all of those issues. So it's delivered by a group of teaching and research academics, including those who have clinical training. And each week we have a minimum of one session that focuses on exercise or physical activity, but we're basing it on the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine, which you can see on the screen there. So the way we have delivered our exercise is we're calling it exercise snacking, and it's about a 5 or 10 minute focus on resistance or aerobic activities. We also have activities that are designed to promote healthy relationships between our colleagues, but also looking at partnerships and the way that partners and relationships might be challenged by the isolation period and living in close proximity at home. So our relationships also include things like sing-alongs, quizzes, and other sessions that we do have in one of our daily ones that tends to be on a Friday. We've also looked at things like considering alcohol use during COVID. We know that has increased the amount of people that are drinking more than usual, self-reported amounts. When we're looking at our stress reduction, we're focusing on mindfulness and self-compassion and gratitude, and also progressive muscle relaxation as some of the techniques we've shared with our VU staff and students. And then also a focus on managing the stressors related with schooling at home and then also returning to school. And then lately we've started to include some material that is actually helping our staff prepare for returning to campus as well. So I've sort of touched briefly on that, but we can sort of see how, to a lesser or greater extent, we have included some sessions that address these key lifestyle medicine pillars, including looking at diet quality and nutrition as well. So we have had some sessions on that too. Our biggest focus has been during this time of rapid change and uncertainty and unpredictability. Because of the stress associated with that, we know that that's tended to then activate people's sympathetic nervous system. And this is what we need when we need to decide whether we're going to stay and fight in a risky situation, or whether we're going to gather all our resources to get away as quickly as possible. The problem is with during periods of elongated stress that our sympathetic nervous system stays aroused, and it means we stay in this constant state of tension or stress. So what we're trying to do with our program in the brief sessions that we do have every day is start to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. And this is where we're looking at assisting in relaxing and slowing down our energy functions. So all of the strategies, to a lesser or greater extent, are tapping into increasing that parasympathetic nervous system response to help bring a sense of relaxation and calm during this period. So for an example, I thought I might take you through a couple of the techniques that we have done in our VU Elevenses program. And one of the first ones we did was having a look at slow and deep breathing. And the reason why I really like this technique is it's one that we can use at any time throughout the day. And it can also be particularly helpful if you're having trouble switching your brain off at night and getting to sleep. So doing that slow and deep breathing while you're lying in bed can be really beneficial as well. It helps provide a sense of calm. It helps to stimulate our parasympathetic nervous response, and it can bring around improvements in mood and reductions in stress because of that. So anytime you are feeling overwhelmed or stressed, I would suggest trying it for 2 to 3 minutes, and practicing it a few times a day will also help. So we're going to try this together, and we're going to sit up straight, and we're going to place one hand on our diaphragm, so just above our belly button, and one hand on our chest. And I won't do that because it interferes with my microphone. But the key is that the hand on your chest should not move, otherwise you're not breathing deeply enough. And so the technique we're going to use helps to slow our breathing down to 2 to 3 breaths per minute. And if holding it for 4 seconds is too long for you, you can try 2 seconds instead to start. But just before we do it, I'd like you to just take a moment to think about when you will try this again today. Maybe after the webinar's finished, or maybe before dinner with your family, or maybe, as I mentioned, lying in bed later tonight. So just take a moment to visualize yourself breathing deeply in these situations. And how will you remember to do this? So you might put a reminder in your phone or put a sticky note on your computer. So I'm going to press play, and you can see a visual is going to change on the screen to take us through the pace in which we're going to try to breathe over the next minute. Thanks. Oops, I went too far. So we breathe in for 4 seconds, then we hold for 4 seconds, and then breathe out for 4 seconds and hold again. We'll try that again. So that slows our breathing, as I mentioned, down to about 2 to 3 breaths per minute, but start at a pace that's right for you. And that will really help with bringing in that parasympathetic nervous system response. If you're thinking at any time about feeling anxious about returning to work, or multiple responsibilities, or the stress associated with working remotely, we know that even though it has been beneficial to use online platforms to hold meetings, it also is quite stressful to be available all the time and Zooming all the time, seeing yourself on camera, attending to other people's micro expressions, and a whole range of things makes online meetings more stressful than face-to-face meetings. It can also be helpful to visualize this breathing as a box or a rectangle. So you're inhaling up one side, holding across the top, exhaling down the other side and holding along the bottom. So sort of imagining that in your mind when you're doing the breathing exercise can also help. I'd also like to very briefly touch on a mindfulness strategy as well. And in doing that, I acknowledge that mindfulness might be new to a lot of you, but also some of you be very experienced in mindfulness practices. And either way, we'll just try out a simple technique that can be used for a minute or two when needed. And this is called the Notice 5 Things technique. It's a really simple exercise to center yourself and engage with your environment. And if you practice it throughout the day, especially at times when you find yourself getting caught up in your thoughts or feelings, it can be a very useful strategy. So again, I'll just take you through this very briefly. And this is an example again of what we would be delivering in our VU Elevenses program. So it's a simple exercise to center yourself, pause for a moment, and then the first step is to look around and notice 5 things that you can see. So you might bring your attention to 5 things that you notice in your immediate environment, and maybe pick some things that you wouldn't normally notice. Maybe a shadow in the corner of the room, or a small crack on your windowsill, or something like that. So again, we won't spend the full time in doing this. This is just for me to introduce you to this idea. But the first step is to look around and notice 5 different things that you can see. The next step is to listen carefully and notice 5 things that you can hear. So take a moment to listen and hear some things in the background. It might be the chirp of a bird, or the wind in the trees outside, or the hum of your refrigerator or your heater when you're working from home, or the faint sounds of the traffic outside. So just 5 different sounds that you can notice, and it just helps to draw your attention away from your internal experience to your external experience. The next step is to notice 5 things you can feel in contact with your body. So bring awareness to these things that you can feel. It might be the texture of your clothing, or the feeling of the warmth from your heater, or the smooth surface of your desk that you're resting your hands on. So 5 different things that you can feel in contact with your body. And then finally, if you have the time, try to do all of the 5 things at the same time. So if you don't have that time, you might just want to try one of those techniques to see, hear, or feel. Pick one for a quick shift of your attention to the present. So in order to think about some things that we know might be good for us to try, we also talk in our program about the importance of setting achievable goals, making a plan, involving others when we can, to do things that we enjoy doing because we're more likely to do them again, to build a routine, and to track our progress towards these things. So if it is about trying to include some breathing exercises or some relaxation or some yoga that you're trying to do at home, to really make sure that you set those achievable goals and make a plan to do it, because we know that that's more likely for you to engage in that behaviour. If you're looking for more information, there's a lot of links and resources available at Head to Health is a great place to start to find the COVID support. And if you're thinking about your own needs or anyone that you love and care for that might need a bit more support during this time as well, that's where you can find it. So that's what I wanted to share today, and to say thank you so much. We will have our results of the program out soon, because we are evaluating the VU Elevenses. Our preliminary results are indicating that it seems our program has been effective in protecting our VU staff against deterioration in their mental health symptoms during this time. We're also hoping to have all of our resources publicly available soon. So once that happens, they'll be on a publicly available VU webpage, the links to all of our sessions that we have recorded along the way. So thank you so much for inviting me here and being able to share a little bit of the work that we have been doing, and hopefully there's some things, little tips that you might be able to try out yourselves as well as you're looking after yourself during this time.
Thank you so much, Alex. That was great, and I feel so relaxed already. I just wanted to mention a couple of comments that came in while you were speaking. You had some great feedback about the pause for a moment. Both Rosanna and Kyra said this is one of my favorite techniques, and I do agree. That's a great thing to calm down. And Louisa also mentioned that singing and humming is good for the parasympathetic system, as the vocal cords are linked to the vagus nerve. This is part of why singing feels so good. It's also very good if you have trouble breathing, like asthma or sinus issues. I guess, is that part of the reason why you have used sing-alongs as one of the Elevenses?
Yes, thanks, Sarah and Louisa, for that question as well. Yes, so certainly, so there's that dual aspect. It's a way that we can actually have some connection between our colleagues, so that keeping our relationships going, or just having some fun times together. But absolutely, so we know that singing does have a great anti-anxiety effect, and there's been a lot of research looking at the mental health value of choirs, for example. So yes, it's there's definitely some evidence behind the effects of singing.
Yeah, great. Alison is asking, how long are the Elevenses sessions?
They are only for 10 to 15 minutes each day. So they're scheduled at 11 o'clock each day, and as many staff as they can join us on a daily basis, but there's no minimum attendance requirements. So people can just tune in when they can, and we try to have everything wrapped up by 11:15 so people know that they can go on and continue with their other work requirements.
Yeah. Jay is asking, what has the participation been like? Numbers, is there any particular days that are really busy? And have you had feedback from the attendees as well?
Yeah, we certainly have. So we ask for everyone to provide us, if they can, weekly feedback. We've certainly, so it gives us a sense of what's the most enjoyable and popular sessions as well, and what people would like more of. So that's why we established early on the need to have a minimum of at least one exercise or physical activity focused session, because that's what our participants were really keen on and asking for. So some weeks we also have two sessions there. And the feedback's looking really positive. It has actually helped with self-reported perception of mental health and wellbeing, including some reduction in some depression, stress and anxiety symptoms. People have also found it really useful and helpful, and feeling like they're also more connected, or feeling a bit more connected to their colleagues than they were in the early days of working remotely. And we also have asked people to opt into a formal research evaluation. So we've got about 130 staff who have done that. But our attendance has been anywhere between sort of about 80 to 250 staff on any given day. And at the moment it's sort of starting to reduce a little bit down. We're sort of getting about 100 to 120 each day joining the sessions.
That's amazing. It seems like you have a really good support from the staff and students. It's incredible. I think that was all the questions we had for now, but thank you so much, Alex. It was such a great session. Oh, we got another one here. Oh no, just positive feedback. People are saying it's a great program, and the VU seems to be doing a lot to look after the staff at the moment.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Great questions. And thanks, Alex. That was wonderful. I really enjoyed that, and I feel heaps calmer. So thank you. So next we have a presentation that will get us all moving a little bit, as much as you can in your chair. Deborah Bain is one of the shelf-ready services processors at CAVAL, and she's been with CAVAL for 11 years. Deb is also a yoga teacher, has been since 2005. And over the years, she's enjoyed the balance between working at CAVAL and teaching yoga. She's been teaching in a variety of settings with different groups of people, elderly and young, in gyms, studios and outdoors. I know she teaches at La Trobe because I've been to a few of those classes. She's currently awaiting the reopening of the McLeod YMCA to return to the 2 classes a week that have been her mainstay classes for many years. Previous to CAVAL, Deb was a chef and still is totally keen on high quality nourishment. Her cakes were always a highlight at CAVAL, I have to say, and I miss them. So well-being through a healthy, balanced lifestyle is her thing. So I'm looking forward to this. Thank you, Deborah. Over to you.
Okay, thanks, Ray. Thank you very much. Alex, that was just a lovely session. I really appreciated it, and I think a lot of people will get a lot out of it, despite the fact that I feel you've stolen a whole lot of my session. But never mind, that's okay. I'll roll with the punches. So I was actually going to start my session today a bit like this, a bit like how you might find yourself at your desk after a couple of hours at home. But I thought, how can I start like that? I was so alert and so interested in your session, Alex. So I've ruined the beginning of my moment, but I'll use that as a little segue into the fact that when we're, as human beings, our posture often reflects our mind state and our emotional state. And it's a feedback loop. Our emotional and mind state affects our posture. So it's a really simple way to check in on yourself. Where's your posture at, man? What are you doing? How are you sitting? So as I was going to start my session, just demonstrating something a bit like this, or often we'll catch ourselves doing it, and you can see when we're sitting that way that we're compressing, that we're making everything smaller inside. Our ability to breathe and our ability for our metabolism to really work. So I suppose a bit of my session today will be about that, the really simple things that we can do to be mindful, to pay attention, to how we're feeling, to look at ourselves, how we're sitting, and to give ourselves the best chance to keep our energy levels fairly stable during the day. We're all going to have slumps, but as long as you can be more mindful and help yourself to sit up and breathe. So that technique of having the hand to the diaphragm and the chest is a beautiful technique, and I was going to use something like that. But really, we might just do, because you can't have too much nice, deep, steady breathing in your day. So we might do it now. Sit up straight, everyone, and give your shoulders a little loosen off. You know, you might like to do a little bit of that, a little bit of punching and releasing, and just feel how you're sitting up. Feel how your spine is nice and erect and how your shoulders can relax away. And from there, we're doing a similar thing. We're just noticing the breath coming nice and deep, as though your tummy is expanding and then flowing out. So just breathing in and out through the nose. Perhaps just listen to my words and close your eyes for a moment and feel the breath come in nice and deep, right down to your belly. Your belly expands, and then a nice, slow, steady, streaming exhalation. Your belly draws back in again. So just opening your eyes, and from there we've established that sense of being a little bit more settled, which Alex, thank you very much, you've already helped us with. And from there we'll do a few more bigger physical movements now, and we'll start with this space here, stimulating the face and moving the muscles of the face is really important as far as releasing tension in the neck and the jaw and around the eyes. So we'll start with the eyes, and I call this, well, I don't call it this, it's what's known as lazy eights. You can put your thumb out in front of your vision and you're imagining a big 8 just turned on its side, and we're not moving the head, we're just using the peripheral vision. So it's doing these great big loopy 8 movements. So that's quite a good little eye exercise for using your peripheral vision and crossing over the right and left side of the brain. And just other things to really wake up your face, wake up that sense of making your mind a little bit more alert, is things like opening the eyes really wide and squeezing them shut, a few of those, and you can make it even a bit more extreme and scary, frightening by going. And then a couple of those sorts of movements. You can use your hands as well. So it's just those different movements which will translate, send nerve signals into the back of the head, into the neck, the shoulders, the face, helping you just to loosen up a little bit. And of course, as well as all those things, as has already been pointed out, sometimes just making noise can be really good. So you might like to do a humming. You can feel that vibration when you do that. And another lovely exercise is to bring your hands to your eyes. So no one's seeing me now. You're bringing your hands, your fingers just across gently to the eyes. You can bring the thumbs just across the ears to close out external sound. Have the lips lightly touching and hum, and feel how you've internalized your awareness a bit now by closing off and relaxing the eyes, just shutting out a little bit of noise, and you feel that vibration, breathing in and then breathing out and making a gentle called bumblebee breath in the yogic circles. So come back now. If you've gone right internal, right deep in, just nice big breath. Give yourself a little bit of a snudge, and we'll do just another little bit of movement, bigger movements. We're starting to make the movements a bit bigger now. We've moved the face and the eyes, moved with our breath, just opening the chest and really working into that upper back and chest area and the shoulders with those sorts of movements. And let go, readjust your clothing, have a drink of water, do what you need to do. A little bit of easing off. So these movements you're possibly already doing, and I imagine, Alex, in those sessions you're running, you're focusing a little bit on this kind of thing, just to loosen up and let go of tension. And I love that term you used, Alex, about, was it exercise bites or exercise snacks? I love that. 10 minutes, an exercise snack. I love snacks. I love exercise. Put them together. That's bloody brilliant. Okay, so we'll stand up. Look at this. Might as well, everyone stand up and plant your feet. Feel yourself planted there in the ground or on the floor. Let's reach up. So really feel the feet connecting to the earth and reach up as far as you can. And then you're imagining a golden rope. I'm imagining a golden rope. And we're just really stretching up to the sky, but totally planted ourselves into the earth. A couple of those movements. These are just little things you can do just to wake up your body, get your energy flowing, open your spine, your chest, and work with your breathing. Another movement that's really nice to do when you come away from your desk, just for a little exercise snack, is a little bit of twisting, moving the chest around the spine, just some gentle movements, really getting that sense of noticing we've got muscles in here. We can stretch them. We've got a spine. We can gently move it. You can feel how that affects that whole energy center of your body, our torso, our solar plexus. We'll do a bit more of a stimulating breathing technique now, because we want to go back to our desk and continue the day. So this breathing technique is wonderful for opening the chest, but also stimulating the passages of the nose. So we're going to start just bringing the hands together about chest height, and we're going to do 2 quick sniffs in through the nose, and when we breathe out, we're reaching up and making it a 4-part out breath. So I'll demonstrate. Ha, 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 ha. Ha, 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 ha. If you like, you can make a noise. If you like, you can just keep it fairly low and don't spread your, if you're at home alone, it's a bit easier. If you're near an open window, it's a bit easier. So just a quick and smile. And just give yourself a little shake out, loosen off. You know, you see dogs and cats do these sort of natural movements. We need to do these natural movements too. Just give yourself a little bit of a wiggle and a shake. They're all good things for releasing tension. And tension, of course, stops energy moving. So we, living creatures, we need to have that flow of energy. And another breathing technique that's also a beautiful stretch is, and again, it's slowing down our breath a little bit, as you suggested, Alex. So we'll just put our right foot forward a little bit. Again, we'll start with the hands at about chest height, elbows wide, really lifting up through the heart space. And we're breathing in through the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Reaching up, breathing out through the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathing in. Out, 2, 3, 4. We'll just do it left foot forward. Reaching right up, lift the chest, and when we breathe out, expanding into the lungs and reaching out through the palms of the hands. And breathing out, just coming back to land, and release. Give yourself again another little shake off, loosening, and notice how you're feeling. Notice your breathing. So it's all about those things that we've mentioned previously, about really noticing what those sensations are and help yourself to come back to feeling what state you're in. You might be feeling really tired. So obviously just doing these beautiful big breaths can help when you're feeling really tired. You might be feeling really stressed. So those lovely, nice, deeper, fuller, slower breaths to the abdomen are a really beautiful way to settle yourself. And one last lovely movement that we'll do just for joy, just for the sheer joy of it, is just these lovely floppy kind of twisting movements. And at this point, at this stage in the session, you can lift your arms and you can sing out loud any song you like, or hum, or just act like there's no one else in the world who can see you or hear you, if you actually can do that, because if there's a whole lot of people who can see you or hear you like me right now, it might just be a little bit, make you feel a bit limited. And let go. So I think that's about my time frame. I've expanded this as much as I can now in that time frame. So thank you everyone for your attention. Thank you, Sarah and Jay and Alex, for presenting. And I'm going to finish up with my most favourite thing you can do for restoring your energy. And I'll just bring a companion, and we have a wall. It's really so simple. It's as simple as putting your bottom down on the floor, get your hip and shoulder right next to the wall, have your companion, and then swivel around so that your bottom is right up against the wall, the legs are supported, and you can let the chest expand. And if you've got a scarf, it's over and out from me. Thanks everyone.
That was fabulous, Deb. I was so glad that nobody could see me. I bet you all felt the same way as well. And somebody was suggesting that we could make some sort of game out of this, Deb, so that you could, I don't know, video something for us and we could all do it 3 times a day. I think that's a great idea.
It's a great thing. That's so restorative. Legs up the wall. You can't beat it.
Not quite sure what the companion was for. Was that just to be friendly?
Oh, you know, something cuddly and soft. Never hurts.
No, that's true. I've got several of those hanging around with me at the moment, actually, but they're breathing ones.
Oh, I see. More unpredictable.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that was great. So, thank you, Deb, once more. Wonderful. I knew you'd be great. Our next speaker is Tina Vasillo. And Tina is a trainer and documentation specialist at Swinburne University of Technology. She's been in the education sector for just over 20 years. She's a highly respected member of the Student Administration and Library Services team, and she's very passionate about creating innovation in her area of expertise. She takes great pleasure in being able to bring back the fun into training. We've had a bit of that today. Tina also runs her own life coaching business, Tina Louise, so has extensive knowledge in human behaviour and thrives on encouraging her clients to create a life on their terms. Over to you, Tina.
Thank you so much, Jay, for that very warm introduction. And thank you to Sarah for the opportunity, and also to Leanne for nominating this initiative to be spoken about today. So I appreciate that. I'm just going to share my screen, so just give me a moment while I get that sorted. Okay, so some of you may know of Tony Robbins. He discovered that there are 6 human needs that affect the way that we make decisions in our daily lives. For simple things like which brand of toothpaste we choose to purchase, all the way to more complex decisions like which career path we pursue. So these needs are prioritised depending on which we strongly favour, and so our choices are generally based on that order. The 6 human needs are taken from the link at the bottom of the slide. If you're interested in delving deeper into the human needs, I find it quite fascinating. Alex did touch on some of these earlier on in her presentation. So certainty is to avoid pain and gain pleasure. So for example, going to your favourite restaurant and ordering the same meal. You trust it will always be the same and it's guaranteed to bring you pleasure. Then we have uncertainty, so the need for something new. using the same example as before, going to your favorite restaurant, but this time trying a new dish. It's a risk that you're willing to chance just to try something different. So next is significance. It's the sense of feeling special and needed. Have you ever prepared a meal and it looks and tastes good enough to be on MasterChef? And then you receive the most wonderful compliments. Well, that's just one simple example of significance. Then my favorite is connection and love. This is being close with someone special or something special. So like having a fulfilling conversation with a partner or a friend, or your pet snuggling up to you, feeling completely loved up. Then we have growth, which is the expansion of understanding, of becoming a better version of yourself through personal and professional development. This one has so many layers to it. And lastly, we have contribution, which is being in service of and supporting others. Many people meet this need by volunteering for a charity, donating their time and money, or by simply helping an elderly person take their groceries to the car. When making decisions, these needs will be our go-to, subconsciously, in order of importance. So mostly in a resourceful way, which means we get what we want without impacting others in a negative way. However, sometimes choices can be made in an unresourceful way, meaning that we'll do whatever it takes to fulfill that need, even if it's to the detriment of our well-being and of others. So for all of you that have certainty as your primary driver, that's mine too, imagine waking up one day and life as we knew it, without any time to adjust, is completely turned upside down. Your Monday to Friday routines is no longer relevant. Home life, work life, school life, everything is so uncertain. Then we have those of you that thrive in uncertainty and couldn't be happier, arms in the air, riding the roller coaster of change. I'm sure this isn't too hard for anyone right now to imagine, as we've all experienced this very thing over the last few months. And the new normal has either challenged you on many levels, or as my best friend put it, you've been practicing your whole life for this very moment. So 2 weeks into my new normal of working from home, I was missing having random conversations with my fellow peers, going to get my regular almond latte from the same cafe on campus. I missed even simple, silly things like walking over to the photocopier, going for walks on my lunch break, seeing and especially the human contact of hugging my family and friends, being able to go to the local supermarket and actually finding toilet paper and pasta on shelves. The list can go on. Now, just to expand a little, outside of working at Swinburne, as Jay mentioned, I am a life coach and have had my fair share of considerable life experiences to process. So I would say I've had some decent practice at dealing with uncertainty. And yet I felt perplexed with everything that was happening to me and around me, like everything was spinning out of my control and I wasn't sure what to do with any of it. So I had a thought that if I was feeling this way, then I'm absolutely sure that others would be feeling that too. So my mind started boggling, trying to find a solution. Surely there was something within my control. And then I went back to my 6 human needs, evaluating each, and then finally setting on contribution. So if I was able to somehow support others through this time, then my other needs would be well and truly met. So the next day I spoke with Carolyn, my colleague, and mentioned how having our catch-ups was something I really looked forward to and that it made all the difference. It became obvious just how much more productive I was on the days we did speak via Teams, because we would bounce ideas off each other and then hold each other to account for work duties, as well as focusing on our well-being together by taking a 5-minute walk at the same time and encouraging each other to sit outside for lunch when the sun was out. So I ran an idea past Carolyn and she thought it may have legs. So I shared it with my manager. He took it to the student admin and library services managers meeting and it received really positive feedback. All I was required to do was consult with the HR department, people and culture, to make sure that they approved. I was pleased it was very well received, and even happier when we were asked by the people and culture consultant if the initiative could be used as a pilot. If it was found to be effective, then it may also be rolled out to other areas of the university. So with all systems go and the managers wholeheartedly embracing the idea, they offered to assist in recruiting some volunteers who had also completed their mental health first aid training as peers. The newly recruited team were super excited and eager to contribute and support their peers in the initiative. So via Microsoft Teams, we gathered and established some ground rules around privacy and confidentiality, made it clear that we were not offering counselling sessions as none of us were qualified to do so. We instead would provide our peers someone to talk to, someone to check in to see how they're coping, if they had all of the resources they needed to complete their daily tasks, so that now that they were working from home. A friendly face or a voice that understood the changes happening at Swinburne, and someone that could be possibly an accountability buddy for odd jobs around the house that have been waiting for that time to be freed up. So the peer-to-peer check-in service was established and is available to more than 100 staff in the student administration and library services area. It is set up on an opt-in basis via an internal wiki form. The initiative is included in the student administration and library services weekly email, and so the staff can opt in at any time. The opt-in page also provides links to some of the main services outside of Swinburne that staff can utilise if they feel they need to speak with a professional, or if they feel they are in danger and need additional professional support. So once a staff member opts in, they are asked to nominate a peer-to-peer team member that they would like to be contacted by and their preferred means of contact. We then make arrangements with the staff member and schedule the first check-in. The conversation happens, and if the staff member would like a follow-up check-in, we would set up a regular catch-up as they've requested. So to maintain confidentiality, I won't discuss the content of the conversations, but I can mention the feedback that we have received so far has been very positive and rewarding. Our consultant in People and Culture is monitoring how well the initiative is faring and kindly provided staff that opted in an unidentifiable survey to measure its success. Oops. So according to the feedback, the benefits of the peer-to-peer check-in gave dedicated time to self-wellbeing, a feeling of being heard. They felt supported by a trusted colleague, and because it was a confidential catch-up, they felt that they could be very open. One of the questions asked was why they chose the peer-to-peer check-in over the employee assistance program. And the responses were in favour of the peer-to-peer check-in because the peers already knew the workplace. So there was no need to build rapport with a complete stranger. And it was simple and stress-free opting in process too. We've taken on board some improvements, offered to add a brief bio to the peer-to-peer team members, as not everyone in the wider team knows them personally. So having something that may align one person over another would be helpful, as well as promoting it more frequently. And overall, the responses were very positive. It had been appreciated as the staff had felt cared for and supported. So we're hopeful that the peer-to-peer check-in initiative will continue on once things move back into campus life. There's one thing that is most definitely certain, and that is that there is and always will be uncertainty in the world. It all comes down to how we look and act on it, as that will determine how we get through this and ultimately how we get through everything. So thank you very much for your time, and thank you for the opportunity to be here to explain the initiative to you.
Thank you so much, Tina. I had a question coming from Jay about what is the particular stress that seems to come with constant Zoom meetings? It seems so much more exhausting than normal meetings. And also, why are meetings in general so tiring? And how can we best reduce and manage this when we go back to the new normal?
All those questions for me?
Yes.
Wow.
And I'm happy for Alex to also put in her feedback as a psychologist.
Yeah, so it is definitely, let me stop sharing my screen. That might make it easier. Yeah, it is quite stressful having to go from meeting to meeting. So I tend to find if I get away from your desk for a little while, just to stretch, getting some sunshine definitely helps. Refocusing, as Alex explained, on things around the room to actually just refocus your eyes on something different. So it is a bit challenging, and trying to even block out some times in your calendar is helpful so that you're not completely running from one Zoom meeting to another. And possibly, spreading those out through the week instead of having 3 or 4 meetings back to back.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree. This, with what Tina has suggested, it's just about really being mindful and being aware of the fact that we do need to take time away from our desk. And if we're in the office, even if we think we're concentrating and having elongated periods sitting at our desk, chances are that we've had a phone call, or we've had a colleague drop by, or there's a whole range of reasons why we've moved and shifted our attention from our computer for a period of time. I think I briefly mentioned, and I've put a link to a really great piece on why Zoom meetings in particular are more exhausting than face-to-face meetings. And I think one little thing is some things to think, where you set up your camera, having your camera off to the side might be helpful at times, and also turning your self-view off, because that increased self-awareness is not a usual way that we function either. And so that can be very exhausting when we're monitoring our own reactions, as well as keeping up with everyone else's reactions in the meeting as well. So turning your self-view off can be so liberating. So I would suggest considering doing that when you can.
Great. We have another minute or so for questions, if anyone has any further questions that they want to ask. I can see a lot of good feedback coming in to all the speakers. That's excellent to hear. I might hand over to you again, Jay, to do a bit of a wrap up. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.